Yes, welcome to those of you who are here. Thank you for your time to learn about the blended retirement system, opt-in eligibility for those people who are Service Academy cadets and midshipmen and ROTC recent grads. This webinar is for you, or if you know people that are in this situation, they may need this information, please spread the word. I believe we have either one or two more of these remaining, or they'll be, as Melissa said, it'll be up on the YouTube channel. Now this webinar does not take the place of the mandatory BRS opt-in training for those who will be BRS eligible. This is a supplement to that. This is meant to give you an opportunity to ask your questions and to go a little bit more in depth about what it means to be planning for retirement, what it would mean to choose the BRS versus choosing the legacy system so that you can make the best choice for yourself. So what we're going to cover today is who is eligible, what does it mean to be eligible to opt into the BRS, the blended retirement system, what does it mean to choose the BRS, what are the key components of BRS versus the legacy high 3 system, what is the mandatory course, what other resources do you have to help make that decision. And of course, since this is ultimately about deciding which retirement plan to be into, that you're going to be into, this will help you. We're going to cover some things about retirement planning to help you make that decision. So who has the choice to opt in? You may be under the impression, if you followed the BRS news in the last couple of years, that that window of opportunity has already closed. But for those people who signed their contracts prior to the end of 2017, but have not yet gone into active pay status, they will become eligible once they go on active pay status. So currently those people are grandfathered under the high 3. They will have an opt-in period, usually 30 days within the first actual active pay status day. And then if those people that sign their contract after January 1 of 2018, they don't have this opt-in or opt-out business. They don't have a grandfathering into the high 3. They are automatically enrolled in the BRS and they have no further action required. So people who, for example, entered one of these service academies or started their ROTC program before the end of 2017, but have not yet gone into active duty status, those are the people we're talking to that will have this eligibility to opt in. So what's the difference between the grandfather system, the high 3, and the blended retirement system? Well, what it really boils down to is that with the high 3 system, you basically have to serve 20 years to earn any retirement benefit provided by the DoD. And most people think of it as, oh, when I retire after 20 years, I'm going to get 50% of my base pay, which is a rough way of looking at it. And the details are that there's a defined annuity, meaning an annual lifetime source of income, that is computed at 2.5% times the number of years served. The 2.5 times 20 years, that's where the 50% comes from. And it's times the highest 36 months of base pay, of the service member. So that's where that 50% of base pay comes from in that high 3 system. And to do that, like I said, you have to serve 20 years, and only 19% of service members, only 14% of reservists ever qualify for that annual lifetime or monthly lifetime source of income. So the blended retirement system blends the contribution of that defined annuity, that annual, the monthly lifetime source of income, with your TSP by contributing to it, even if you don't contribute to your own TSP. Now, TSP is Thrift Savings Plan. If you're in the service, this is your retirement savings account. If you were a civilian, you might have a 401k from your employer. If you're at a nonprofit, it might be a 403b. If you're self-employed, it might be a solo 401k or a STEP IRA or something like that. In the service, it's the TSP. Now, everybody in the service has the opportunity to contribute to a TSP account. And whatever you contribute to your TSP account is always your money, it's your account. But in the BRS, DoD also contributes to the TSP. And as long as you serve your minimum of 2 years, you're vested into that account, meaning you get to keep whatever DoD put in there. So you would walk away not only with whatever you saved, but with whatever DoD contributed to as well. So 85% of all service members are going to be able to walk away from the service with some retirement savings thanks to the DoD contributions to the TSP, versus in the legacy high 3, only 19% or 14% of reservists will ever achieve that. So for example, let's say someone graduated in May and has been taking some time to visit family or travel or move to their first duty station, and they've checked in on July 1st, and so now they're on active pay status. Now they should see an opt-in link on their myPay or direct access or Marine Online page asking them to make their BRS decision, saying they have the option to opt into the BRS. And that's a 30-day window, unless you're in the Army, and then it's a 90-day window. And the truth is, the services do have some leeway with that window. But just speaking to you from the future, because I'm betting I'm older than the Academy grad that might be listening right now, the sooner you get this done, the sooner you can move on to drinking from the rest of that fire hose that's going to happen once you're in your first duty station. So learn about it now, take the opportunity to ask your questions, and learn what resources you have to help you make this decision now, and try to get that done within that 30-day window. So let's get into some more details about the blended retirement system. Like I said, part of it is the same as the other system, a defined benefit, defined by a monthly lifetime source of retired pay. 2% times the number of years of service, so times 20 years, that's now 40% instead of 50% like we would see in the legacy system, times the highest 36-month average of base pay. So that's still out there as an eligibility for retired pay, eligibility for retirement under the blended retirement system. It's a lower monthly amount. But in addition to that, there's the contributions from DoD. And if you do nothing with your TSP, DoD will contribute 1% of your base pay into TSP, whether you do anything or not. But if you'll notice on the chart, the more you contribute of your own, the more DoD contributes. And it's not a dollar for dollar match entirely, but if you notice, if you put in nothing, you get the 1%. If you put in 1%, you get the automatic 1% and another matching contribution of 1% for a total of 3%. That's pretty awesome. The more you contribute, the higher it goes. So to maximize the contributions that DoD might contribute for you, you would need to put in 5% of your base pay. You would get the first 1% automatic and another 4% matching for a total of 10% of your base pay going into your TSP, into your retirement account. If we could get everybody in America to save 10% of their pay for retirement, we might not have so many people worried about having enough money in retirement. This is really awesome. And in particular, for those people who are young now and have time on their side to help that money grow into between now and the time that they need that money in retirement and don't have other sources of income. Another couple of features with the blended retirement system that are unique is the continuation pay and the lump sum. The continuation pay is basically like a mid-career bonus. It's for those people who have reached like the 8 to 12 years mark. They may be thinking about getting out. They may be thinking about signing on for a few more years. This would be a percentage of their base pay that's determined at some, the calculus is determined each year by DoD, so that amount of the bonus will change, but it's basically a percentage of your base pay, or not a percentage, a multiplier of your base pay to serve as a bonus at that stage in your career to help incentivize people to stay on. The lump sum is a benefit for those who do reach the 20-year mark. And for people who reach the 20-year mark, for a lot of people, that's like age 41, 41, because if you started at 21, you put in 20 years, you're only 41 when you're getting out. This is not usually when people are getting ready to settle down for the rest of their lives and are financially independent. These are typically our prime earning years. Well, if you have just served for 20 years and now maybe you want to start your own business or finally buy a house, or some other big purchase, and now all you're getting is 50% or 40% if you've chosen the BRS, of your base pay, you've just taken a big hit to your income unless you had a job lined up right away. So maybe you want to take a lump sum And that would be a discounted amount of your retired pay, either 25% or 50% upfront of your overall retired pay. And what it would do is diminish the monthly amount that you would make from 40% to a lower amount between the time that you retire and the time that you reach age 67. 67 is when you would become eligible for full Social Security benefits, so that would supplement your income at that age. So that lump sum is just an option that the BRS has that the legacy system does not have. Once someone retires with 20 years in the legacy system, they get that 50% of their high three and they're out, and that's what they don't have the option of taking that lump sum anymore at all, sorry. So I know I keep talking about the blended retirement system. This is a real learning opportunity for a lot of people because it is fairly new. It doesn't mean that it is the best thing since sliced bread. It's just what is the newest system in place, and the opportunity that you have now to choose it or to choose the high three is yours. It doesn't matter whether you choose one or the other. DOD has no preference. I have no preference. I just hope that you learn enough to make a decision that works best for you and your loved ones. The first bullet here about a greater portability of retirement benefits, I find that to be a bit misleading. Honestly, your retirement benefits are portable in that either system offers you the opportunity to serve 20 years and get a monthly source of retired pay for the rest of your life, and both systems offer you the opportunity to contribute to TSP and save for your own retirement. The difference is if you leave the service before you've put in 20 years, you decide not to retire from the service, you will now have something to walk away from the service that DOD contributed for you in your retirement account that does not exist in the high three system. The earlier savings for retirement, I'm a big fan of this only because I think everybody should start earlier for retirement, saving for retirement, because no one does this for you. No one will, start saving for your retirement. People will start saving for your college the minute you're born, but nobody starts saving for your retirement. So the earlier anyone starts doing that, the better. And with DOD contributing that 1% automatic of your base pay, if you choose the BRS, that gets you started. This bullet that says no longer all or nothing retirement plan, by that they refer to the fact that you used to have to to serve for 20 years before you got a retirement benefit. That's no longer the case. If you elect BRS, you have now retirement benefits coming to you in the form of that TSP contribution that does not exist in the high three system. You can elect a TSP account whether you're in the high three or the BRS, but only in the BRS will DOD contribute in addition to that. So this does cover more people. Like we said, 85% of service members under the BRS will have something to walk away from with DOD's contributions. It can be seen as a recruiting incentive. Now all new service members were going to go into the BRS. And so in addition to telling someone, hey, join the service, you get a steady paycheck, and we're going to save for your retirement. We're going to help you save for your own retirement. That could be seen as a recruiting incentive. The continuation pay, as I said, can add an incentive to stay for a longer or full career by adding that bonus or between the 8 and 12-year mark. The lump sum option is new to this system, giving people the option of taking a bigger sum up front at the time of retirement in exchange for a lower monthly retired pay for the first 20-some years. And it encourages people to save for your retirement. Again, I'm a fan. Anything that encourages people to save for retirement is a pretty good thing, and I think everybody should, whether they choose the BRS or not. So the mandatory training that exists for everyone who is eligible to opt in, that can either be completed online at the JKO, Joint Knowledge Online site, with your CAC, or at Military OneSource without. And in some installations, there might be an opportunity to take a class with a facilitator leading the group and answering questions as you go along. The course was developed with accredited financial professionals, people from each service, contributing information to make sure that the kinds of concerns that might be brought up are going to be addressed by this training. What are the questions that might come up? What are the concerns that a service member may have as they decide which of these systems to choose for themselves? There is a pre-test and a post-test. Don't worry about what your scores are. They're not keeping scores on you. They're keeping scores on themselves to make sure that the curriculum they developed is actually teaching what they intended it to teach. It checking on whether you learned what they wanted you to learn. So don't worry about how you do on it. If you don't do very well in the post-test, you can take it again. You can take it as many times as you need to make sure you've mastered the information and made the right choice for yourself. It does take about 2 hours to complete online, and at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the website from which to do that. The comparison calculator at militarypay.defense.gov. I love this part of the Military Pay website. There's an entire section on blended retirement system. Lots of helpful links there, including the comparison calculator that helps you determine, well, how would I fare if I chose the BRS instead of choosing the high 3? It gives you a place to enter some variables, entering when you start on active duty, when you think you would leave active duty, and what kind of a contribution you might be making to your own TSP, and so on. That's the comparison calculator specifically. There are other resources on that page as well. The FAQs in particular address some of the unique situations that are facing this particular population of cadets, midshipmen, and ROTC grads. That's the only place I've seen a reference to the specific population, in fact. So the FAQs on the BRS website, militarypay.defense.gov/blended retirement. If you go to militarypay.defense.gov, you can find BRS information. So yes, there are places online to do your own kinds of research. Military OneSource is another place to do that research. But if you would rather talk to a person, ask questions to a live body, there are financial professionals at nearly every installation, CONUS and OCONUS. We are financial counselors or financial managers. They are free to service members. They are confidential to service members. And a lot of them are affiliated with the service themselves. Myself, I'm a military spouse. A lot of them are either military spouses or veterans themselves. So we really do feel like we're contributing to our own family by helping our fellow service members with their financial decision-making and planning and budgeting and so on and so forth. So those professionals are there not only to help you with deciding how to choose BRS or high 3 and what are your resources available, but all financial kinds of questions as well. Military OneSource also offers free financial counseling. And these resources of financial counselors are available to all active National Guard and reservists and their families. So how do you opt in or out? Like I said, it's going to be on your pay website. So if it's DFAS, it's myPay or Marine Online. And if you're Coast Guard, it's direct access. And myPay covers most service members. So we're going to have a screenshot here of the myPay main menu for somebody who is eligible to opt in. And you'll notice that little green circle highlights the blended retirement system opt-in. And if you click there, then it's going to tell you that you are now eligible to make this decision and asks you, have you taken the mandatory training? And you can say yes, and you can say no. If you say no, it's going to take you directly to that training site. And as I mentioned, you can take it as many times as you wish. So if you get here and suddenly freeze up and think, oh, I already took it, but maybe I should do it again, you can do that right here. The next thing it's going to ask you is to make sure you understand that once you make this decision, you cannot go back. There are no take-backs on this whole thing. The decision is irrevocable. It means you cannot change your mind. In fact, it's going to ask you a couple of times to make sure you understand this is not something you can go back on. So make sure as you click forward that you're making the decision that you have thought through, made sure it's the right one for you, and that you understand you can't take it back once you do, all right? Next thing it's going to ask you is to make sure that your information is correct to set up a TSP account. Because like I said, if you're choosing BRS, DoD is going to start contributing to your TSP, an automatic 1% right into the next pay period. You're going to start with that. So once you've established that you're going to choose BRS, they're going to open a TSP account for you and start contributing that 1% at a minimum. You will also need to, at that point, determine if you're going to contribute yourself. And you can do that also from your myPay or Direct Access and Marine Online website. Determine your own contributions to your TSP. so that that matching contribution can be taken advantage of as well. So I mentioned we're going to talk about retirement planning, because you're choosing which way you want to save for retirement. Do you want to save for retirement in a system where you contribute to your own TSP, you serve your 20 years, you're going to get a monthly lifetime source of income? That's one way to do it. If you choose BRS, you choose to contribute to your TSP or not. DOD is going to put money in there for you, a little bit anyway. You could serve 20 years or you might not. The thing is, most people do think that saving for retirement is a good goal to have, but a lot of people just don't do it. They think they're too young, it's not really that important yet. Maybe they don't feel like they have enough money at the end of each month. Maybe they're too worried about paying off debt to think about savings, as if they were mutually exclusive, and they're not necessarily. Or maybe people are just not sure what to do. They see that the stock market goes up and down day by day, and so they might think they're going to lose money. There are lots of barriers and fears that keep people from saving. But the truth is, as I mentioned, time is on your side. On the whole, people who save money end up saving more money the younger they start because of the glory of compound interest. This stool over here in traditional retirement savings models used to just be a three-legged stool, and it was your pension, your Social Security, and your retirement savings. Well, not everybody gets a pension. If you don't serve your 20 years, you're not going to get that lifetime source of income either. So Social Security, yep, that's likely to be there, unless we have changes to our laws and so on. But our other investments, our other ways to save for retirement really do form a foundation for how well we're going to live in the future when we stop working. So let's think about that. I mentioned starting early. A lot of people use the example of, hey, you should forgo that coffee and make it at home. I don't think that's necessarily the best example to use. Maybe a cup of coffee is really not such a big offense at the end of the day, but it is a common thing that people spend money on that they could easily save by making at home. So let's just say you spent $275 on a cup of coffee on all the business days of the year. That would add up to, over the course of a year, $720. And over the course of 5 years, if all you did was take that $720 and put it in a box, you'd have about $3,600. But if you had taken that same $275 every weekday and put it into TSP, into the C fund specifically, you'd have almost $4,300. So hopefully this already, if you haven't already thought about making sure you're taking advantage of the TSP savings, no matter which retirement system you go into, understand that putting money into the TSP is different than putting it into a savings account. You would not get nearly $4,300 out of $3,600 in such a short time. And if you do, I want to know where you're putting your money. And so over time, as you can see from this chart, after 10 years, that money has more than doubled. After 20 years, that amount has tripled. That is just assuming a 7% annual rate of return. And depending on what kind of investments you choose in your TSP, that could be a substantial source of income. And it all depends on starting early. Because if you start saving too late in life, you may not have 20 years before you end up having to stop working and relying on whatever you've saved in that amount of time. So if you start now, you will always have that time on your side. So the thrift savings plan, things to think about as you consider investing in that. There are very low administrative costs, very low expense fees associated with the TSP. If you've ever talked to someone about saving for retirement, they might talk about having a nominal expense fee to their investment accounts. In the 401ks I've had available to me, I've never served, so I've never had the opportunity to go into TSP. But boy, if I did, I would be in it in a heartbeat. The expense fees are basically the amount of money that they charge you to manage your money. So if you have $1,000 in your account and they say, we're going to charge you 1% expense fee, it sounds like a nominal fee, 1%. That doesn't sound like a lot. They're charging you $10 to manage that $1,000. Well, in TSP, the average expense fee is 0.04%. That means they're charging you 40 cents to manage that $1,000, whereas they're charging me $10 to manage that $1,000. So when I say there's very low administrative costs, we're not kidding. This is the largest retirement plan in the U.S. It serves all our service members and federal employees. So they can afford to keep those expenses low because they have a very large population participating. There are multiple investment options. You can transfer this plan just like you could any other retirement account. Don't let people make you think that just because you got it because you're in the service, that it's only good while you're in the service, it's only available to while you're in. It's none of that. This is a retirement plan that adheres to the same kinds of laws that other retirement plans adhere to, and so it's transferable in those same ways. And you have the option of using pre-tax traditional investments or after-tax Roth contributions. So the difference between traditional and Roth basically is when you pay your taxes. If you put in money into your TSP account and you put it into traditional funds, it means it's going to take that money out into those and put it into those traditional funds before you've paid any taxes on it, essentially lowering your taxable income. If you put money into Roth contributions or Roth funds, then your contributions are put into those funds after you pay taxes on them. Now, when you start withdrawing those funds later in life, after they've grown and earned all kinds of interest, if you put money in traditional funds and you withdraw that money later in life, you will pay taxes on that as ordinary income. So you didn't pay taxes on it all those years that you were investing, but now you're going to pay taxes on it when you take it out. Roth is the other way around. You put money into a Roth account today, you pay your taxes on it this year. When you take your money out later in life, you will not pay any taxes on it, at least unless there's any kind of change in the tax law. But for now, this is what we know about Roth and what we know about traditional. This is how those accounts work. That money is always your money. You put your money in, you can take your money out. You can roll it over to other kinds of retirement plans as long as they are eligible retirement plans and eligible rollovers. I don't think I need to get into those nitty-gritties because right now we just want to make sure you understand the difference between saving for retirement in the blended retirement system versus high 3 and what it means to be contributing to your TSP. So TSP has 6 kinds of investing funds. Now you see 5 of them listed here. Some people think, wow, that's not really very many. But the truth is, the 6 kinds of funds that they have represent the entire myriad of investment options that are available to you out there by any other investment firm. The G fund is like the guaranteed growth fund. That's how I remember G. It's going to guaranteed to grow. It won't grow a whole lot, kind of like putting it into a supercharged savings account. It'll earn you more than the bank might, but maybe not a whole lot more. But you will never lose money in the G fund. The F fund is bonds, so it's still a conservative growth, but usually steady growth. The C fund, that represents the S&P 500, that's what we hear about on the news every day. That's your Googles and your Walmarts and the big to medium companies, and they make up 80% of the U.S. stock market. The S funds, that represents the medium and the small companies. So now we've covered the entire stock market. And the I is often the international funds from companies in developed countries. So now we've covered just about the gamut of anything that you might want to invest in. And then the 6th type of fund is your lifestyle, the L funds, the life cycle funds. These are target date funds that are allocated between those other 5 funds that I just showed you based on when you intend to start withdrawing the funds. So if someone were 60 years old today, they would want to be either in that income or L2020 fund because they're going to start withdrawing funds pretty soon. So it's going to have a lot in the G fund because that's steady growth, conservative growth, not going to lose money in that fund, and not a whole lot in the stock market compared to the L2050, where you'll notice a lot of it is in the stock market. A lot of it is in that C fund, that S&P 500, which has a lot of volatility. But over time, it has steady growth. If you ever hear of the news on a day where we've had a big drop in the market, go and find yourself a chart of what the S&P 500 has done over the last 10 years or the last 30 years. and then notice that the dip that just happened that day is a blip compared to the overall growth that you see in the stock market. But if you're getting closer and closer to retirement and we're having a volatile year, you might not want to have your money so much into that S&P 500 that takes those big dips back and forth. Time is on your side. And the way these life cycle funds go, the older you are, the closer they'll get to the way the 2020 fund gets. So someone who's in the 2050 today, this is how that's allocated. But if it were the year 2040 right now and you were invested in the L2050, they would have already created new funds for the younger people coming into the service, and they would have reallocated your money into the C, the F, the G, and so on to more closely resemble these more conservative allocations in the L2020 and the L income funds. So those are for the people who kind of want to set it and forget it. Maybe they just don't want to worry about, oh my gosh, in 10 years I need to think about being a more conservative investor than I am now. Maybe you don't feel like an investor at all. You just know that you need to save for retirement. This is the way to go for that. I don't want to tell you how to manage them. What I want to tell you about deciding where to allocate your funds or deciding how to contribute to TSP, let me just tell you that the TSP website is really quite good at educating their investors, at helping you determine what kind of an investor am I? Am I conservative? Am I risky? Do I like having steady growth? Do I like having, am I okay with having some volatility? And they can help you build that portfolio by taking some quizzes and determining that, or just determining which L fund might be the best one for you. And you can choose a mix and match. You can choose Roth and traditional. You can choose both. It's all up to you. I just hope that you choose to invest in yourself. Set a retirement savings goal, a goal just to save for retirement. You don't have to say, I need to be a millionaire by the time I'm 50 or whatever. Just make sure you're saving for retirement, because you're paying for your future self. Pay yourself first basically means you're putting money into those savings accounts, those retirement accounts, before you think about paying the cell phone bill and paying for dinner and whatever else you might want to pay for. You're paying those retirement funds the same way you pay other steady bills. If you have your car payment on auto pay, have your contribution to your TSP and your savings account also an auto pay thing. Not something that's oh, if I have money left over, I'll do it. No, this makes it a priority. If you don't have a budget and you don't have an emergency fund, I highly encourage you to check out either getting an app or going to your bank's website or going to one of those free counselors, a PFM or a PFC. Not mean private first class. It means personal financial counselor or personal financial manager. These are people who work for you for free, confidential financial counseling on installation or online. There's some virtual positions, and there's also virtual counseling to be had from Military OneSource. They want to help you establish that budget, help you minimize debt, help you maintain a positive cash flow. Positive cash flow just means you have more money at the end of the month than month. If you get to not quite the end of the month and you've run out of money, that's a problem. That's a negative cash flow. We hope you are not in that situation. So those financial counselors can help you with that. So what I want you to take away from today is that you have an opportunity to choose the blended retirement system or choose the legacy system. Do your research, do the training, decide which of these options is best for you. I hope that whichever one you choose, you will choose to also contribute to your TSP on your own. Because 1% of your base pay between now and 20 years from now is not the same as getting 5% of it. Or 10, you get to decide how much you save for yourself. And other places to look for information, I mentioned the TSP website, I mentioned militarypay.defense.gov, and we've mentioned Military OneSource also briefly. And below, obviously, you can see that we are trying to engage people at all kinds of social media platforms. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this time. Has there been any questions, Melissa?
We did get one question in. It was about how long do you have to opt into BRS?
You have a 30-day window from the day you've gone on active pay status. You get 30 days. If you need more time than that, each service does have some leeway with that. And if you're in the Army, they have already extended that window to 90 days.
Great. And then another question we get in is about the TSP contributions. Are they always, or the matching contributions, always traditional?
Yes, thank you for asking that. I forgot to mention. They are always going to be put into traditional funds, into the age-appropriate life cycle fund. So if you have not allocated how your funds are going to be, how you're going to contribute to your own funds, DoD will just create a life cycle fund in a traditional fund for you.
Great, and we'll stay on the line a few more minutes. If anyone has a question, please go ahead and get that into the chat box. Well, I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you, Katie, for this wonderful information. And like we mentioned, our recording will be available on the FinRed YouTube channel here at a later date. So thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.